and so we've got you on today because you got a story to tell, and it's a really emotive one, and you've made a hell of a lot of change in Tasmania, which led to you winning the 2017 Young Australian of the Year award. Now, take us back to the earliest time you can remember in your life, growing up with your brother Ty and your family. What was your upbringing like as a child there, Mitch?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because I don't talk about that a lot when I sort of share my story. But I think my memories of growing up were pretty good. I wouldn't say that mum and dad had a lot of money. I remember when it came to going to a private all boys school, which is a school that dad went to, wasn't necessarily about where was he going to go. I know that mum and dad were probably more looking to not send me there because of the affordability element of it. But we had a great child. I just remember growing up and my sister, as me as the eldest, my sister in the middle, and then my brother Ty as the youngest. And, mum and dad had a lot of friends and a lot of nights around at people's places, with their kids playing and staying late and being carried out of the car into bed half asleep. And I love that. It was a really fun time. I love my sport. I enjoyed interacting with my brother and sister. I remember, when I sort of got to that old, it's funny when you're a big brother, you don't sort of realize to a certain age. And I don't know, I probably got to about 17, 18. And when I realized that how cool is this, that I've got a younger brother here, and you sort of go from driving each other mad and all that sort of stuff to actually, respecting the relationship, if you like, and started really having fun with it and forming a really good friendship. And so, yeah, so from then on, from probably 18 to 25, I was out, probably talk about it soon, but, like partying and living my life and working and stuff. But I remember when I was home, I really loved having fun with my brother, wrestling, backyard cricket, backyard footy, all that sort of stuff. Mum and dad separated when I was in about grade 7 or 8. And, I don't really feel that impacted me too greatly. I remember they used to fight so much in the end that I was kind of relieved when dad sort of said to me that, it's all over and I'm going to move out. It was almost like a relief that toxicity was going to be not in my life anymore. But if did it impact my sister or in particular my brother? Maybe I'll never know, and I don't know. But yeah, it was a fond reflection when I look back as a child. I had plenty of opportunity, and it was a nice. They're nice memories when I think about it.
Yeah, and we'll get into Ty's story and the preceding events that led to you know Stay Chatty. But looking back on it now, and I understand you devoted a lot of the months after Ty's passing to trying to understand more about why he actually took his own life. Is there still a lot of questions in the back of your mind as to why he did that? And is that something that constantly plagues you on a daily, weekly basis, thinking about the why did he take his life, and thinking it back to, was it my parents and the toxicity of the relationship? Was it potentially the way I treated him in the days and weeks leading up to that? Was his school, or is that something that affects you on a daily basis?
No, the answer would be no. Look, I've certainly gone through phases early on, and then it's been 10 years now, and I still very much live and breathe his death through me sharing my story and through the organization that we've created. But I certainly had days or times there where you could very much let that consume you. And I've met people that are still, and there's people in my family that, still think about that, and still wonder what if and all that stuff. And I, of course, will always wonder what if. And there were things which I'll share in a second about him. But I think that, my grieving has sort of I've been able to grieve through this process of being an advocate for mental health. We turned 10 a couple of months ago, and I remember writing a speech, and we had a lot of people that had been there on the journey and supported me and us throughout that. And I just remember saying that, this, whether I like it or not, well, I don't like that. I always get upset when I think about Stay Chatty and the life I've had the last 10 years, and finding purpose, and the travel and the meeting incredible people is amazing. But it all came out of the loss of my little brother, and that eats me up when I let it. But I choose as much as I can to, I suppose, just realize that, these things, it happened. It was devastating. It turned our world upside down, and life will never be the same for all of us. But there's nothing I can ever do to bring him back. And so, yeah, of course, there's moments where I want to get caught up in thinking about that, but I know that would eat me alive, and it wouldn't really do me any good at all. But Look, I've been asked that a lot, did you know Ty was struggling, and is there a reason why he took his own life? And the short answer is no. There's no real definitive answer as to what was going on in his life. But I suppose the biggest learning for me, as you said, in that next couple of months, I really went from devastation, disbelief, sadness, grief, guilt, all those feelings, to over the next few months, sort of when people ask me that question, was he struggling? I'd always answer it with a really firm no, like, nah, he was happy, he was fun, all these sorts of things. But I suppose, I couldn't accept that. I just sort of thought, you know what, he had so much going for him, and how the bloody hell does someone with so much going for them, happy, fun, support around them, take their own life? And that's sort of what led me to learning more about and reading a little bit more about mental health. What do people do? How do they act? Where do they go? More often than not all the time, because every mental health issue and concern and the way people deal with it is different, of course. But yeah, in my instance, we did learn that, I learned and sort of shared these examples with my family, that my brother, in probably the last 2 weeks of his life, was different. He stopped having dinner with us. He isolated a lot. He didn't ask for lifts home when he normally would. And there were certainly changes there, and they are certainly a big driver for me now to share that with others in more detail than what I'm doing right now. But for people to look out for the signs, because, I was just naive, I was ignorant, I was arrogant. And yeah, I certainly grew up in a world where I never ever thought that that mental health would hit our family or my life, but let alone suicide, and let alone my little brother, who, as I said, brought so much joy to our world.